Hey, this is Jason with 4W Knives. Today I'm taking the 60-layer Damascus billet and we are hand forging it into this hunting knife. I'm going to be doing a hidden tang using deer antler, and this knife is going to be donated to a local church where they can use it in one of their upcoming fundraisers. One challenge that I had with forging this out is that the billet that I had was just about the right size for the knife that I was going to make, meaning I didn't have a lot of material to waste. So cutting in the tip wasn't really an option. That meant I had to forge it from a square end down to a pointy end. A lot of times when you're doing this, if you don't do it correctly, you can develop fish lips, which causes inclusions and other problems that you don't want on your knife. So luckily what I did develop, it wasn't terrible, and I believe I'm going to be able to get that off whenever I do my final shaping on the grinder. At this point, I'm isolating the back of the knife for the tang. I do a lot of this work with the hand hammer, and then I eventually move over to the tabletop power hammer. I do this because, one, it helps me keep it squared, and also it moves both sides of the steel pretty easily, and I'm able to work it down a lot quicker than what I would be by hand. Once I get the tang down to a manageable size, I divert my attention to the bevels. Start at the heel of the knife and I work my way to the tip. And I try to make sure I do this even amount on both sides so I keep the edge centered. As you've seen in other videos of mine and probably others, this can be a challenge. The tip of the knife will banana on you and move all around, which I was okay with because this design that I have actually has a little bit of a sway of a point. So it's actually going to move it in the right direction and help me on my final shaping, which again, I'll go to the grinder and I'll get the finished look on it. As you can see, I have a lot more to remove on this with the grinder than what I would like. Just proof that the forging aspect of my game still needs to improve, but just keep working at it, and eventually I'll get there to where I can forge it to a final finish, or at least closer. After some surface grinding, I draw out my bevels and I go to work roughing in my flat grind. As you'll see in a little bit, I alter my plans and I don't follow my drawing very well. Just as I was going, I just couldn't make it look good, so I went ahead and went with a full flat grind. All right, so I have the rough grind in. It didn't take a whole long time because of I'd already hammered in most of the bevels. You can see I went ahead and went all the way up with it. That's a little different than my original design that I had drawn in, but that's okay. I just, as I was going, I just felt that might look better. So the next step is I've got to figure out, the church, or the people with the church, sent me 2 antlers to choose from. This one is beautiful. It's just a little thick for a hidden tang. It might make a good full tang. It's a little curvy, but it might. So we're going with this one. It's not perfect, but I think it's going to work. I have to come in here and I'll have to cut this little notch off, find a good basic length for it, cut it off there, and then I'll go in and clean up the inside so I know how big of a tang I need to have on this thing. And then we'll do the guard after that. So first step for me doing this hidden tang with the antler is cleaning out all the soft stuff inside the antler. Make sure that it has something good for the glue to hold on to at a later point. I just use my drill press and a fairly good sized bit to do this. It makes pretty short work of it. You do have to make sure you're careful not to go and blow out the side of it. All right, so I hook up my file guide and go to the 2x72 to square up the shoulders for the guard. I use the 2x72 to get it close, and then I will use a hand file to get my finished product. Hand filing ranks right up there with hand sanding to me. Very monotonous. Seems like it takes forever, but it is very important. Something that over this little bit of time that I've been doing knives, I've learned to do more of. All right, so I've got the handle, kind of loose fit to it. I'll adjust once I get the guard fit up. I just wanted to make sure that it would go on there, and it does. I have taken it to the file guide and got the corners squared up pretty good. I may have to adjust as I go. And now this is a piece of little twist Damascus that I had left over, the end of it, so I'm going to try to use it. I have found a center line the best that I could. You can see it's not very square, but that's going to be okay. I've got enough to work with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a little bit of room up top just to allow for some air. And then I'll take the marker and I will put a mark on the width of it. And that's going to give me my guidelines. So the next step is I will drill holes as many as I can and then clear that out. I'll do the drill bit the width of the tang. Okay, after I drilled the holes, I get the little file that I have and start cleaning it up. It's just going to be a long process. Overall, this takes me about an hour and a half of just taking a little bit off with the file, trying it, taking a little bit off, trying it. But eventually it slides right up and it's a pretty snug fit. I was really happy, especially how square it was to the shoulders. There's a little bit of gapping that you won't be able to see on the inside, but it really wasn't bad. All right, so I wanted to show you where I'm at. I've got the guard fit up pretty snug on the side. It's not perfect on the inside, but it neither usually isn't. I am going to put some spacers in. Going to have some leather, 2 deals of this white spacing. Fits on there. Leather. And then end with leather. And then the handle should fit up snug to that. What I'll do off camera, because it's not set up for me to film it, is I will take this in the house and I will super glue these pieces together to the antler, and then I can do all my shaping before I do my final glue up. So the only thing left to do now, a little bit of shaping on the guard, and I need to heat treat. First step in the heat treating process is the thermocycle. Thermocycling means I will heat this blade up to critical temperatures and let it cool down to room temperatures. I'll do this 3 times. I prefer heating the tang up first to avoid getting the tip too hot. Once I've let it cool down to room temperatures, the 3rd time I will quench it in Parks 50 oil. After I've done this, the blade is officially hard, and to remove some of the brittleness, I will cook it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 2 hours. After the temper, I take it to the 2x72 and get to doing my finish grinding. I do an 80 grit, then a 120, and then I move to the Trizac belts, ending with an A45, which is about the equivalent of a 400 grit sandpaper. Did a pretty decent job on this, so it limited some of the hand sanding I had to do, and I ended up getting it to a 600 grit, and it ended up being a pretty decent finish on it. I wish I could have included all the little tedious things that I did with the handle to show my work, but it really just was getting too long. Here all I'm doing is shaping the spacers to the shape of the front of the antler. That way I can get a good strong fit up to the guard. Alright, so we get it etched, get the guard etched off camera, stick it all together, get it glued, and we have our finished product within the next day. And here it is all finished up. A lot of things I would have done differently, but overall I'm very happy with the way this one turned out. I like the Damascus guard quite a bit. This knife will be auctioned off at the Lost Cowboy Church in Gracemont, Oklahoma on February 11th at 8 p.m. It'll follow their check-in for their coyote hunt. I know they would appreciate anybody's support, so go check it out. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching this, and hopefully I've got some more coming up that'll be even better. Thank you again for watching.